Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. On today's show, after what Victor Wembanyama did to the Lakers last night, we're asking where Wemby ranks among the best players in the league right now. Meanwhile, the NBA trade line might have told us everything we need to know about the future of the point guard position. Plus, Knicks Sixers play tonight, but which team do we trust more in the playoffs? All of that and more on today's Locked On NBA Daily.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today we're talking about whether the Spurs can catch the Thunder for the #1 seed in the Western Conference, why the league may be rejecting small guards, and we'll take a look at a loaded slate of games tonight. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast, senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
I pissed off Jazz fans by saying they shouldn't throw games, and Hornets fans by saying the Moussa Diabate escalated the fight. Who's next on my list today?
I guess we'll find out. From the Locked On Bulls podcast, he's also a Bears and Bulls creator for Bleacher Report. It's Haize.
I realized something the other day, that me and Matt may be two of the best analysts as far as basketball-wise, but regardless of how you feel about us, we do cover 35% of all sports podcasts between the two of us.
True. It's a lot of podcasts.
It's true. It's a lot of podcasts. You would think we would get paid more, and yet.
Here we are. Guys, we have to start today with what we saw from Victor Wembanyama last night. 40 points against a skeleton crew Lakers team, sure, but 25 points in 8 minutes in the first quarter. Here's more from the Locked On Spurs postcast.
Victor doing something that we've only seen two other Spurs do better. First 8 minutes of the game, he goes for 25 points in the first 8 minutes of the game. It's the third most points in a quarter in San Antonio history, and they're off and running. They're up by 17 after one. Ultimately go up by 29 at half. Wemby's total goes to 37 at the break. Final line reads 40 points, 12 rebounds in 26 minutes of work. The 40 points showing that he has tonight, it's his 6th so far in San Antonio, as we know. And as a result, it passes Tim Duncan all time.
Some great company. They're talking about Spurs history. I want to go even broader, guys. I want to talk about the league as a whole. And after the game, JJ Redick called Victor Wembanyama one of the top 5 players in the league. I think he's right, but I'm going to put it to you guys. Where would you rank Victor Wembanyama right now, Matt?
Top 5, I think, has to be in the category. It's tough because it's like, all right, he's still so raw. Like, he's still figuring out his game. Like, that polish is the thing that's missing, but he's going to have more and more of these nights. Yoke, Shea, Giannis, Luka. Tatum versus Wembenyama is like the question to me. Like, he's above Cade, he's above Brunson, he's above Jaylen Brown, obviously, all those guys. Like, I think it's like, where do you want to put Tatum? And I think a lot of people are going to be like, Tatum's not, okay. Tatum's done a lot in this league, guys. Yes. Like, he's done a lot in this league already. But as if we're talking best, I might go higher. I might go higher. Like Haize, like, is it easier to win with Victor Wembanyama than Luka Doncic?
Yeah, I think as far as like the team that you can build around him, yeah, it's more versatile.
That's like, Luka's numbers are insane, but also he moves on the other end of the court. Like, he actually moves his body, and that is helpful. Victor is really crazy in that I don't know how to project him. I don't know how to set a floor on him. I don't know how to set a ceiling on him, because anything is possible when he's on the court, and he's still so raw. But last night, I think, is an illustration of the fact that I will just keep maintaining this. Do not lose sight that you want to get a championship. You're going to need to get it in now. You better get it done now. In 3 years, this league is Victor Wembanyama's. If he is healthy in 3 years, there's no hope. This is going to be Victor's league for a long time.
I'm gonna piss off some people with my comment here, and I know because like people don't like to live in a world where you're either all in or all out, right? That's where people are at now. Wemby is great; he's amazing, and when he's on the basketball court, yes, he's a top 5 player in the NBA. But I think I still need to see more longevity in the sense that can he stay on the court more frequently? Like that's one of the biggest problems in Knox, and there's still times where you're still able to put stronger wings on Wemby and force him out the paint. So he's an amazing player. And yes, when he's on the court, he's probably a top 5 player. But the thing that's holding me back from wanting to just firmly put him there is still the inability to stay on the court enough. Like we knock guys like Anthony Davis for that. Like Anthony Davis, for what it's worth, if I'm not mistaken, played more games last season than Wemby did. So I think you still have to factor that in. Now, yes, he's younger. You expect the health to eventually come. And to Matt's point, there is no ceiling or a floor yet the floor is extremely high for Wemby, but like the sky's still the limit for him. But like he's played 39 games this season?
Something like that.
I think you have to factor that in somewhat as well.
So Victor Wembanyama has played, I'll tell you right now, he's played 39 games. He's also averaging just 29 minutes per game. So even when he's on the court, he's not playing a lot of minutes. Now, a lot of that is the health management stuff too. I still just want like his impact in those 29 minutes. It took him 25 minutes or 8 minutes to score 25 points yesterday. Now, granted, he's not doing that every single night, but what we've seen from Wembenyama is just incredible. And you look at the Spurs right now, they are second in the Western Conference. They're 3.5 games back of the Thunder for first place in the West. The Thunder are dealing, obviously, with a ton of injuries. They are going to be helped out by the All-Star break here at the end of the week. And then SGA is also supposed to be reevaluated next week, so we'll see when he eventually comes back. But when you look at the Spurs team, could the Spurs catch the Thunder for first place in the Western Conference? And like, how much should teams even want first place right now?
I mean, they should want first place because it's insurance against falling to 4. That's the trick. Is like you don't want to get caught into you don't want to get caught where you could wind up losing a lot of range here. Gap is 3 in the loss column. That is still close enough that they can catch. And if you're like, well, obviously, no, it's actually when they win at this rate, every game that we go through, when you win at this rate at a 76% win rate, gets very tough to catch. They've got tiebreaker that helps, right? You can pass them if you tie them. They are still within range of the 1 seed. I don't know if 1 versus 2 helps you that much. Like you want the home court in the conference finals. Obviously, it matters more than you think. But like, I don't know that if the 2 is Thunder Rockets, like I think it comes down to who the Spurs want to avoid. And I don't know who that team is right now because they've shown they can beat up on pretty much anybody. The Wolves are the only team that I would be concerned about if I was San Antonio, outside of just like the base respect for OKC.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely catch them. It's not outside the realm of possibility. They'd have to win at an incredible pace after the All-Star break. Wemby would have to stay healthy. There's already an injury scare with Stephon Castle. I haven't seen if there's been an update on that, but I wouldn't count them out of being able to do it.
Yeah, it might come down to, Matt, your point, like who do you want to avoid in the second round, right? Because that battle between pretty much everything from 3rd to 7th right now in the West, everything is so close, but Denver right now is sort of hovering there in that 3 or 4 range. It kind of depends on is Denver the team that you're trying to avoid? Then you're starting to play the standings a little bit. I'm at the point now where you probably can't really do that.
No, you can't. It's also the West is too tough. Like 16 losses for the Spurs. Lakers are at 21. You start messing around with it if these teams go on a run and it just gets real dicey all of a sudden. What I will ask, I keep thinking that we found like the Spurs apex. I keep thinking to be like, all right, this is probably like a peak for them. And they just like, this is the most impressive thing. They keep getting like a little bit better every game. Like all of their numbers, all of their underlying things, the win profile, watching them play, like they get a little bit better every single game. I do worry about peaking too early just because every time we have this conversation on this show, 2 weeks later, it's what's wrong with the San Antonio Spurs because the season's too long. So there will be a time in March where we'll probably be like, uh-oh, what's going on? I do think, though, that this team is absolutely in range for them to be able to win the title. They're going to pass 40-20. They're going to have all the metrics. They're going to be as good. Like, you watch them, they have a superstar. If you want to go that route, the narrative route, like, do you have a guy? They have two guys, I think, in Fox and Wemby. Like, they're a serious title contender.
Yep. Meanwhile, small guards didn't go for much at the NBA trade deadline. Is this a sign of a larger trend in the league? If so, what does this mean for the future of the point guard position? We'll talk about that next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding somebody willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping that the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want somebody that could help. I'd want somebody with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you're looking for. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a good fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show will get $75 in sponsored job credits to help you get your job to the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast, without the hassle, and it puts advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and you'll have tickets locked in within minutes. You'll love seeing the all-in prices up front. That means no surprise fees at checkout. And with the ability to see the view from your seat before you buy, you're going to make your decision with your tickets easy, and you're going to do it with confidence. Zone deals stand out. You just choose a section. Game Time picks the seats, and you save money. And they have great last-minute ticket options too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's GameTime.co, not GameTime.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. We air Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, still thinking about the fallout from the NBA trade deadline. One of the things that I've been thinking about since then, maybe even a bit before then, the status of small guards in the NBA and what we saw at the trade deadline, I think underscores the case that the NBA might be rejecting small guards. So a series of things that we saw happen. The Hawks get basically nothing for Trae Young. Grizzlies couldn't get a good offer for John Morant. Haize, your Bulls couldn't even get a protected first for Kobe White. Cam Thomas gets straight up waived by his team. And then maybe the biggest one, Darius Garland gets traded for a guy 10 years older. And one of the talking points we hear out of Cleveland is, well, at least he's not small in terms of James Harden. So I'm starting to wonder if small guards are becoming the NBA version of running back in the NFL, where the league kind of all at once just says, hey, this is not worth investing into in terms of this certain kind of player, this position. Haize, what do you think? And why are we seeing the league maybe trend in this direction right now?
I mean, have we ever seen small guards beside a few ever be highly valued in the NBA? So I don't really know if it's a new trend. Like, yeah, there are some small guards that can absolutely go off, but I think the window for those guys, it's specific per the team. And now, like, you see scoring at a premium for all positions in the NBA. I think just you look at guys like Trae Young, he's not a winner. Kobe White, I wouldn't categorize Kobe White as a small guard. He's 6'4". But nonetheless,
he's wiry.
Yeah, but I mean,
Play
so
small.
some of those, like, I don't know if we've ever seen a point in the league where small guards were highly valued to where this is shocking me too much. This is about where I expect the value to be at.
So I'll disagree with a couple things from Haize, and I have a bunch of little thoughts on this. I think, one, we can't say that they're undervalued because they get paid. This is the problem.
That's true too.
Is like, if you get buckets, you get paid. That's how the NBA works. Woo! 25 points! Can't find that anywhere in a league with offensive scoring out of its backside. Like, come on, man. Like, this is what kills me is like, if you're a role player who connects other guys, plays great defense, is hyper versatile, makes smart plays, and helps your team win, yeah, he might get like a mid-level contract. Yeah. Whoa, do you have a pull-up jumper that you shoot 41% on? Let's go, max him. And then you wind up being like, oh, we can't win with this guy. The other thing, though, I will say is I don't think it's necessarily about small guards. I think it's about multiple small guards. The problem with Cleveland is not, I don't think, Darius Garland outside of like the injury stuff. The problem was in the playoffs, the Pacers were able to be like, you have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, and we're just going to pick on you every time. Like Darius was hurt. But like in the playoffs, they've had that problem over and over and over again, which is like, you can hide Donovan. You can't hide two perimeter guys. Like this is a problem. Which is one of the things I'm going to be really interested to see with the Hornets is wouldn't call LaMelo a terrific defender, right? Can you hide LaMelo and Con? What's it going to look like? Is Con going to be better than we think defensively? Is LaMelo going to be better than we think defensively?
That's the thing. LaMelo can be good defensive. We've seen brief stretches of it. If LaMelo ever actually cared about the defensive side of the ball, I actually think LaMelo could be a good defender.
Yes, but again, why would he care about it when you don't have to do that to get paid?
That's true.
This is how it goes, right? So I think the combo, it really is about, I think the combo of can you win with two guys? Because if you're going to go to the can you win with a small guard, we have to like point our attention immediately to New York and just be like, can you win a championship with Jalen Brunson? If you subscribe to you can't win with small guards, you have to rule the Knicks out. You just have to. You can't do it. I think the counter here would be, hey, if you got Jalen Brunson and you've got Wingstop, that covers for him adequately. But there's a lot of data that says that having a bad small defender and a bad big defender like Karl Anthony Towns creates problems you can't get around. And it's one of the reasons why I think you're seeing these like Detroit, OKC, nobody small in OKC. There's nobody small in Minnesota. There's nobody small on San Antonio. Doesn't happen. The elite defenses do not have those kind of weak spots.
I guess that's maybe what I'm talking about in terms of the trend here is you're right. Like these small guards have gotten paid over the last few years. I'm starting to wonder if they're not going to get paid anymore, right? Cam Thomas bet on himself by taking the qualifying offer. And then his own team was just like, nah, we're good. We're going to waive him. Trae Young got traded for a salary dump in part because he's not going to get the contract that maybe he's hoping to get this summer. I wonder if we're at the beginning of maybe a trend line here.
I don't think so because like you're ignoring like a lot. I get what you're saying, Wes, but like being like, yeah, the Grizzlies couldn't trade Ja Morant because of his height. I mean, if we're talking about the problems with Ja Morant, that's right? Fair. And like Cam's got a reputation as just being an empty stats guy. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
I also think it's funny. The Nets are like, well, we waived you because we couldn't find anyone to trade you because you suppressed his value. You surrounded him with horrible players and didn't play him because you didn't want him to be able to generate a restricted free agency offer. So he took the qualifying. And when he took the qualifying, now you have no reason to pay him because you're not going to keep him. Mm-hmm. So it's just like this entire kind of chain. I just think if we look back, there's other kind of questions here. What about Tyrese Maxey? Is Maxey big enough? Is he okay?
You're always going to have, I think, right? Like even when the NFL was rejecting the running back position, you still had like a Derrick Henry, right? Who was just so good at that spot that it was worth investing in. You'll have Maxey. You'll still have your Jalen Brunsons every once in a while. But Haize, I look at like your team, the Bulls, right? Of all the guards that they had, they say, we want Josh Giddey. We're basically going to move everybody else. Mm-hmm. It does feel like teams look at the Cade Cunninghams and the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders and say, given the choice between the 6'6" point guard and the 6'2" point guard, we're always going to pick the 6'6" point guard. Maybe that was always true, but I do find it interesting that like a team like the Bulls with a bunch of middling guards kind of just picked the 6'6" one.
Yeah, but they also got back in that 6'3" Anthony Simons, 6'1" Rob Dillingham, 6'3", maybe 6'4" Jaden Ivey. So
well, this is where I think it's because it kind of speaks to what Haize was talking about, where he's like, Kobe White's not small. But like, if you had asked me, is Kobe White small? I've been like, yeah, he's small. Like, because there's a difference. There's not like a height where we're like, oh, he's big. Right. It's about your frame. That's what we're really talking about here, because Cason Wallace is 6'3", and Cason Wallace you can absolutely win with.
Is Tyler Hero a small guard?
Yeah,
he's 6'5".
Yeah,
but he's
like, hey, do you call Tyler Hero a small guard?
See, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say he plays small per like what he doesn't attack the rim, and it's such a delineation, because even like Anthony Simons, he's 6'2", 6'3" with a 6'10" wingspan. I don't necessarily think he plays small, but he is a small guard.
But then that's what's funny is you went to the offense side, and I always go to the defense side, because we're going to go down the route of, well, he can't get to the rim. And my problem is, like, Cade Cunningham can't make layups, and he's the size of a pterodactyl. Yeah. So, like, this is kind of the problem that I think you run into, is like looking at I'm just looking at all these guys. Like, the best example of this, but it's too big of a name, is Steph, where it's just like, well, yeah, but it's Steph.
It's Steph.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is like, look, Steph is 6'3", and they had to cover a lot for Steph defensively. Steph's a willing.
Granted, though, they did have Clay for most of that time, and Clay's 6'7", and was a good defender most of that time before he started falling off. So it balanced 6'7".
I hate that joke. It's like the second time in a week.
I'm banned in my house. I have to get the jokes off here.
Well, look, we have 14 games tonight, some of which will feature small guards, but I want to take a look ahead to a few of them and ask the real question when it comes to some of these games. We'll do that after this. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events that you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports that you care about the most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that starts slow and somehow gets intense fast, speed skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, and thanks for making us your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Check out Locked On Spurs for more on today's top stories. Let's look ahead to some of tonight's games with another round of The Real Question, fellas.
What is real? How do you define real? It's impossible.
I want to start with an Eastern Conference matchup. Atlanta at Charlotte. Hawks versus Hornets. The real question, guys, which roster between the Hawks roster and the Hornets roster would you take going forward?
What is
Haize?
Ooh. I still say Atlanta. I love I'm a Jalen Johnson guy. Not to say that I don't like a lot of the Hornets roster, but I love Jalen Johnson, Gilgeous-Alexander Walker. I think Asa Newell eventually is going to be really good for them as well. I think they have more balance. I just think if you can get, I could say Atlanta's closer to being one piece away than, to me, Charlotte's closer to being one piece away. So I'll say Atlanta's roster.
Atlanta, they don't have Miles Bridges. That's real.
It's on brand for Matt there. It's consistent.
I stay consistent.
This is a different version of the question. This is not my pushback against your answer. Who would you rather have going forward between two players, Jalen Johnson or Con Knupel?
Jalen Johnson.
Interesting.
If Con's shooting doesn't maintain 45%, if he's not literally going to be the most accurate volume shooter in NBA history, then you start to be like, you can do a lot with him. He's still good, but Jalen Johnson's like a triple-double forward, can defend, all sorts of stuff. I will say that if I was asked to answer, if they trade Miles Bridges tomorrow somehow after the deadline, if they trade Miles Bridges tomorrow, I'd say the Hornets, because you got Moussa Diabate. I like Kalkbrenner a lot. They have versatility on that roster, and that matters a lot to me. Is they have a lot of versatility in that roster, and that matters a little bit more to me than what Atlanta's got.
There was a lot of there are teams calling about Miles Bridges buzz before the trade deadline that ultimately didn't obviously result in anything, and you start to wonder where that noise was emanating from, to see if the Hornets maybe were trying to drum
up
a bit of a market.
Who's his agent, Wes? Do you know?
I don't know.
Oh, it's Clutch.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
where that came from.
Yeah.
There you go. Another game tonight. Knicks at Sixers. The real question, though.
What is real?
Which team do you trust more in the playoffs? Matt, you were talking about the Knicks a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I'm still gonna say the Knicks here. I have a really hard time because there's a lot about the Knicks profile I don't like. They're offensive rebounding dependent, which I'm always kind of like, yeah, but what if the other team tries? Their base defensive level is not great. I think there's a lot of vulnerabilities you can exploit. They stall out sometimes. There's a lot of questions. Fans were heated at Mike Brown last night for the loss versus the Pacers that I saw, but they're just, I can't get past. Joel's just got too bad of a history. If the Sixers were built around Maxey a little bit more, if you took out Embiid and like replaced him with just like a great number 2 weapon, then I would be a little bit more into the Sixers. I'm not trying to just like slam Joel here. It's just, he's had terrible performances even when he's been healthy. Like when he's been healthy, the Sixers have had terrible performances. His game 7 versus the Celtics was a damning performance a couple of years ago. And you can be like, well, he had this injury and had this injury. And I get it. You're going to have to move past that for me before I can believe in you. I think the Sixers can cause havoc in these playoffs, but if we're talking about who do I trust more, I got to go with the Knicks.
You have to go with the Knicks too. They've been there before and they've done it. Like I doubted them going into last year's playoffs, and look at how that went. So I'd say the Knicks just because the history is there. And while Paul George, before he went down and Embiid have stayed healthier than I gave them credit for, I still think they are so, to Matt's point about building the roster a little bit more around Maxey, they're still such a big part of what that team's going to need to do to go far in the playoffs that I just don't trust it right now.
It feels like the Knicks have a much higher floor than the Sixers, but the Sixers at their best might have fewer holes than the Knicks. But the question is obviously, like, can Philadelphia stay at that best level for 4 playoff rounds? Like, I understand, like that is the big issue there, as it always is with the Sixers. Another game tonight, Detroit at Toronto. The real question, though,
What is real?
which team has surpassed your preseason expectations more between the number 1 Pistons and the Raptors, who are pretty firmly right now in the in the top 6 of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference? Haize?
The Raptors for sure. When we talked about before the season started, I didn't have high expectations for the Raptors at all. The Pistons, I knew they would be good. I didn't think they would be this good, but I didn't know they would be good. The Raptors were like, not to say that I thought they were going to be one of the bottom teams in the East, but I thought they were going to be in that play-in area. For them to be this good in the top 6 teams, that's a bigger surprise for me than the Pistons being number 1.
7th on defense. If they traded Emmanuel quickly, I might have gotten home with them being like a top 3 and looked really prediction of them being the number 1 defense. I'm going to say Detroit. So the real thing here is Detroit's they have actually overperformed their record. If you kind of break down, and this, again, I don't just take the numbers and fit it to reality. I think you got to watch these games. And if you watch Detroit, I don't think that you're like, oh man, what an unstoppable monster. You're just like, what a really tough, great team. Like they're a great team. But a lot of the coin flip scenarios have gone their way. Like they just had a lot of things, I think, go their way this season. They've been remarkably healthy. They've had a lot of things go in their direction. This has been their year. Like everything is broken right for the Pistons this year. And so to me, they've overperformed a little bit. So I'll say that they exceeded expectations. Toronto, I think, was always going to be in that, hey, you could be anywhere between the 5 seed to the 9 seed. You were probably not going to miss the play-in. You were not going to be terrible, and you weren't going to be great. And they're not great, and they're not terrible. They're just somewhere in there, and we'll see where they kind of end up. But I'm not expecting a lot from them in the playoffs either.
Last one here, Sacramento at Utah. The Kings entered this game having lost 13 straight. The Jazz entered this game getting headlines for benching their best players in the fourth quarter as they continue trying to tank their record here. So the real question is,
What is real?
Is tanking as big of a problem as people are saying it is, Haize?
Hold on, technical foul. How in the world on a day where the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Phoenix Suns play basketball, we're talking about the Jazz and the Kings?
It's what people are talking about. I get it.
Everybody's hurt for the Thunder.
Come on, man. But okay. About tanking. I mean, listen, I'm over tanking. I'm over the conversation around tanking. It sucks. They're both. This is the tankathon. The Jazz are gonna out tank the Kings because the Jazz are experts at tanking at this point in time.
I've made a lot of people mad with some takes on the old social medias. Wes, I want to ask you this because I asked Haize, and I think this is the dividing question. I thought everybody would be on my side because that's how we feel as humans, is we're always like, surely everyone will agree with me. Is it worse to pull guys before the game and set your team up to lose, or to pull them mid-game in the course of it when you are winning in order to actively remove your chances of winning when you have the ability to?
So this was a conversation because I saw the Jazz in person in Miami on Monday night, and this was a big topic of conversation among people before the game. And my final answer is they're both bad. I don't care. Like, you're just...
You have to choose one. Because in my opinion, one is you're setting your team up to fail. The other is you're throwing games.
No, it is worse to not play your guys at all, to me.
The you and Haize are on the same side of this. I think it's really interesting because I can't get there because I'm just like, you're just playing the development guys. You're running out a line. We see rest lineups all the time. That's all you're doing. You shut them down for the season and you're just like, these are the guys that we're going to play and they need to get minutes and we're going to do this. The other is more entertaining for fans because you get to watch Lori and you get to watch Triple J and you get to like whoever. I get it. But you are actively being like, we're up 4. Better make sure we don't do that. To me, there is a slippery slope. I'm going to take this example from the Magic game. I'm not going to say who the player was because I don't think he did anything wrong. I don't think Will Hardy did anything wrong. I am not. But if you do this kind of stuff, there was a player on the Jazz, a center, who took a crossover step back 3 with 18 on the clock versus the Orlando Magic late in that game in a close game. Good shooter. Spot up shot wouldn't have had a problem with. Crossover step back 3. Because of how they handled this, in my mind, I was like, did they tell him to just like jack up a shot? Because I had to be like, why would you do this? And like, young players make dumb decisions. Again, I'm not naming the player because I specifically do not want to cast aspersions on the player because I do not think that's what happened. But if you just play the young guys, I don't have that thought. I don't think that there's any possibility of doing that. You are taking a game where you were at 53% probability to win and actively tanking. You are throwing that game when you remove the rotation.
I guess my perspective was from a fan paying for a ticket.
Sure.
If I'm a Jazz fan and I paid for a ticket, at least I get to see Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. play
exactly
for 3 quarters.
I get it, but I want to ask you guys this. Do you go to games to see just entertainment or do you go to see competitiveness? Because Haize, otherwise, you better get on board with the All-Star game.
No, I mean, if I'm a Jazz fan and I go to a game where they're either winning or competitive for 3 quarters and then they tank it in the 4th quarter, and I said, okay, like that team was good for 3 quarters. I feel good about that game, regardless of the result.
I can leave and beat traffic.
and know that, hey, we lost the game, but we didn't really lose the game. You know what I mean?
And see, I get it as a Jazz fan perspective. I don't have a problem with Jazz fans at all in this. I don't think they should have any. They should be like, yes, this is great, awesome. So I get to see these guys. I get to like, oh, this is how they're going to fit together next year. But Wes, I haven't looked at the numbers. I need a hypothetical for you. If they played their starters more versus Miami and less versus Orlando, and you wind up losing the division and a 6th spot, and you're in the play-in tournament by 1 game because Utah purposefully tanked harder in-game versus Orlando than versus Miami, how would you feel about that?
I would feel like the Heat still lost to the Jazz when they shouldn't have.
That's fine. That's fine. But Orlando got an advantage that you didn't.
The Jazz were done. Larry Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. were both done for the night with 5 minutes left to go in the 3rd quarter.
I get it.
I would never put that on the Jazz for not tanking hard enough.
My problem here is you're messing with the rest of the competitive balance. These games are gonna have impact.
And this is why tanking overall is the problem in general. So maybe we should not have saved that for the last discussion topic of today's show. Maybe something we could talk about more on a later episode. But for now, if you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.